Welcome to Business Over Beer, where entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people passionate about what they do bring us their stories and their favorite beer. Hosted by Ben Surratt, Jonathan Kaler, and Jason Knope, it's time to get down to business and drink some beer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Business Over Beer podcast. I am your co-host, Ben Surratt. Alongside me, as usual, is Mr. Jonathan Kaler. Hello, Jonathan.
Benjamin, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic.
What makes you so fantastic today?
The sun is out. It's mid-September. Usually it's rainy, but I get my vitamin D today, and it's Thursday, and we get to talk business to a cool dude. I'm going to introduce him in a little bit, but...
Speaking of cool dudes,
that's what I'm saying.
With us as always,
Keno PP. Yeah, you know me.
Very happy to be here today, guys. I'm excited to ask some questions of our guest and get some information about some of the cool things they do.
Well, I'm really sorry that you've been misinformed. You don't get to ask any questions because Ben and I are the hosts.
Damn it! Once again,
you have not had any of your questions pre-approved from the panel, so...
Scratch that. I am not excited. I'm just going to sit here and
look pretty.
Look pretty and drink beer.
Perfect. You have a face for an audio podcast, brother.
I think we all have faces.
So this is Business Over Beer, the podcast where we talk about business. We bring on small business owners, entrepreneurs, people passionate about what they do. They tell us about... they give us their stories, the goods and the bads of following their passion. Mm-hmm. And we have got an unbelievable guest this week. Ben, why don't you introduce our guest?
Before I do, I want to say I'm glad that he's here because he doesn't realize it. But without him, there'd be no Bob.
What?
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
So we met at the Tap Takeover. It was about like 3 or 4 months ago, I think.
It wasn't long ago.
It wasn't that long. But we were kicking around the idea of the podcast. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, whatever. And I've seen the videos before that you've done, that Joe here has done. But I'm like, this dude's pretty cool. I'm going to say, hey, good job on those videos. And you were like, that smile, you're like, oh, thank you. Just have to have fun. And I go, and so I'm like, we're talking, and you're telling me your story, and I'm like, oh man, okay, I'm just going to throw this out there. Because I'm a believer, if you want to do something, you have to proclaim it. So I said, you know what? We're doing a podcast, and it's about businesses, and we're going to drink beer. Is that cool? And you were like, you're looking at me, and you had that smile, you were like, dude, that is like the best idea. And I'm surprised nobody has done that yet. So from then on, I went to Jonathan and I said, dude, I met Joe from Old Town Brewing, and he said it's a great idea. And he also said he'd be a guest. And so I'm thinking, okay, he's just saying that to be nice. And then we connected, and you were like, yeah, let's do this. Oh, yeah? We scheduled it. So thank you for being here, Joe.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm very
Joe Sanders, everybody, from Old Town. Sorry.
So, Joe, he has told me this story.
I'm in the building.
He has told me this story at least a half a dozen times.
Hell yeah.
Is it a true story?
It's a very true story. It was a great night. We had fun.
Awesome.
I mean, at some point, I think I finished serving everybody beers, and there weren't too many people coming in, any new people coming in, so we just sat down. We probably talked for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, just because there was nothing else to do. We were like, we got beer, so we might as well just hang out, yeah.
So, tell us a little bit. I want to know about Old Town, of course, but I'm interested in your story and how you came out here. Now, I know you played football and all that, but tell us kind of after high school, and then let's go from there.
So, after high school, I was recruited to play football for several universities. I had full ride scholarships to a lot of places around the country. And
you're from Tennessee, right?
From Tennessee. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. And basically, I wanted to get away from home, right? Not because I didn't love home, not because I didn't love my family and friends and all that, but I'm big on traveling, I'm big on new experiences, and, I didn't want to just do the same old thing. I had a scholarship at the University of Tennessee, I'd say half of every one of our graduating classes in our high school went to the University of Tennessee, and it would just been high school all over again. Same stuff, same drama, all that. Even just being in the South, I wanted to just do something completely different, and I ended up getting a scholarship from Gary Barnett at the University of Colorado, and they were one of the late people to see me. And even that story is kind of crazy because this was very late in the recruiting process. I had already been on all my visits. I was committed to Michigan State.
Whoa, no way.
Oh yeah. Like I had already done my visit, and John Riston was the tight ends coach at the time at the University of Colorado, and they were basically had offered everyone in their class, and they pretty much had their thing done. They had a couple more scholarships to give out, and so they were like, let's just look through all our tape and see if there's anybody we missed. And somehow my tape ended up on John Riston's desk, and we didn't. So me and my buddy mixed up this tape in the film lab at our high school, and we put little sound effects when I would hit people and stuff, it was and we're talking about 2003 here, so the technology wasn't great,
right.
Facebook wasn't existed, it didn't exist yet. Okay, so we had flip phones, and that kind of thing. So we put together this great highlight tape, and got all these addresses. The coaches and whatnot were really good about it, but we didn't send anything to the University of Colorado. So somehow through the coaching sphere, through hiring and firing, and maybe they brought on someone who brought some tape with them, or someone sent something. We still to this day we don't know how it got on Riston's desk.
Man.
And they popped it in. Gary Barnett, Riston, they were both just like, we got to go get this guy, And so they offered a scholarship, and I won't say his name at the time, but my linebackers coach at Michigan State, I'd already taken my visits, I'd already committed, and I was like, I had one more to do. I had one more visit left, and I was like, I'm going to go see Colorado.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, why are you doing that? He was like, you're already committed to us. So I'm like, well, I earned these visits. I got 5 of them, and I'm going to take the last one. We just going to have some fun, yada, yada. And I was like, wow, you ever been? And he's like, no. He's like, I've never been. I just don't see the need in it. And I'm like, well, I'm young. I want to go on a trip. So, I go on this visit. It's the most amazing thing ever. First few hours there, I knew I was in trouble and it was going to decommit probably. And once I get into the weight coach's room, he has pictures all over the wall of all the people he's taking pictures with, and dead in the middle is a picture of my linebackers coach at Michigan State,
no
way. And the strength coach in Folsom Field in Colorado, just big cheesy grins, it's on the wall. I'm like, that motherfucker. He knew. Like, if he goes out there, we're gonna lose him. And so ended up going to Colorado. Probably the best decision of my life. There was ups and downs, but it was just.
Why Colorado? Why do you think that was a good decision? I mean, you're here now, but at the time, did you second guess yourself at the time?
No, not at all. I was all the way in.
Mm-hmm.
From day one. It was never even any question. I love Michigan State, but it wasn't, in my opinion. I love Michigan State enough to commit and go there.
Sure.
To potentially go there, but it was a wrap for me once I went to Colorado. I had no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
What was it?
Everything. It was the coaches. It was the players. On the visit, we were hosted by a bunch of different players. What's his name? David Harrison. He used to play basketball at Brentwood Academy in Nashville, so I knew him back then. He was a star basketball player at CU, and he came on the visit with us. I was with Bobby Purify and Lawrence Vickers, both future NFL players, star running backs. These were Bobby Calhoun, who he actually ended up playing at Wisconsin for a while.
Yeah, he did.
Wisconsin, and but he was at Colorado at the time, and these were our visits, right? And so my buddy, who I played with as well, he was committed to the University of Tennessee. He had another visit, and he came out with me. And he ended up decommitting too and coming with me. And just because we had such a great time and we were like, everything's love here. We both had a chance to walk on the basketball team. That was the whole thing too. It was just, everything was right. The atmosphere, the people, the culture, it was different.
Mm-hmm.
It was different in the South, and that's what I wanted,
So let's go into that, because Colorado, you don't think of a lot of people of color
Yep.
going to
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah.
So that had to be kind of a culture shock for you.
It was. Like in all the pamphlets and stuff, they're like, oh, Boulder's, this incredibly diverse place and yada, yada, yada. And you get there and you realize it is not at all. We were actually, my freshman year, they did a lot to reverse this because they were pretty embarrassed of the statistic. But my freshman year, we were the second whitest campus in America to BYU. So if that just if that just paints the picture for you. I was part of the Black Student Alliance and and all that. But so I knew all the black people on campus and people of color on campus. So but we didn't. The thing about it is we didn't feel it as athletes, right? Because we were at Dow Ward, and Dow Ward was the athletic training facility where everything took place: training table, study hall, working out. We did everything but sleep there, basically. And all the athletes in the school did too.
Wow.
So intramural too. So it was all the women's athletes, all the men's athletes. Like everyone was there together all day, just coming and going and getting to know each other and hanging out and doing all this stuff. So. I actually wrote a paper about it my junior year, just saying that I argued that Dow Ward was the most diverse place in the state of Colorado, and I did a bunch of research on like other companies and businesses and like their ratios of like different people from different countries and races and backgrounds and whatnot, and it wasn't even close, right? So as far as a diverse place to be, I was in the most diverse place to be in the state of Colorado, in Boulder, of all the places to be, right?
Wow.
So we had people from all over the world in Dow Ward every day, So it was definitely a culture shock outside of Boulder. I think for the average black student on the campus, they were definitely like, "What am I getting myself into?"
Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy was my favorite running back growing up.
Yeah.
When did he play there? It was like the 90s.
Yeah, he was on that
Early
championship
90s.
team. Yeah,
when they played Notre Dame, right?
1990,
Against the Rocket.
championship,
The Rocket Ishmael.
Yeah.
And the punt return, I was watching that game. So I remember when Rocket got that ball and he took it back to the house and they called the illegal block to the back, right? And I'm like, I loved Eric Bieniemy.
Those
I don't know
bad
why.
boys,
that
man.
was a great team.
I think that's probably when I thought, started recognizing Colorado as like a place I want to go. Like, just recognizing the team, right? Because they were popular everywhere. Eric Bieniemy and Darian Hagan, the quarterback, right? He was from Oakland and he had his Oakland stuff. And
That's right.
Ice Cube used to come because he was
That's
like the
right.
Oakland, they were kind of famous, right? They were like the Miami. They said what they said, the Miami of the West, right?
Yeah.
So they were young black boy from Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I'm being okay, I like this Colorado team. But yeah, it was definitely a shock. When your first class is a 400 person lecture hall and you're the only black person in there. You know what I'm saying? But I'm comfortable everywhere, so it's all good.
So you graduate.
Yep.
Were you gonna go in the NFL? Was that even part of your plan, or did you graduate and be like, what happened?
That was part of the plan. I had some interest from the Texans and the Saints, but that didn't end up working out. And so I actually just kind of said screw it, and I was I'm not gonna play football, I'm not gonna do this, and I actually moved back home to Tennessee moved to Memphis and took a job in mortgage protection insurance.
What?
That's a
Really?
whole whim too. I met this guy and he was telling me about his company, his business, and he was like, man, I like your attitude, you could really do well down here, yada yada yada. And so this guy was making I don't know, $600,000-$700,000 a year doing this, right? And he was like, I don't have any help in Memphis, and you basically just run the whole Memphis thing. And so I'm like, okay, good, I'm done. Let's just go do this. Let's get into it. And I joke because that was the summer of 2008. And
no,
yeah,
I see where this story is going.
You see where this is going? So I did all the training, I did all the classes, I got certified, I had my insurance license, all this. I go down, I'm running this division by myself, making unbelievable money for like the first 3 or 4 months. And then, of course, the market crashed.
Yeah.
And we went into a hard recession, and it went reverse. I was putting money into it to stay afloat. And that lasted for about four more months, and I was like, I gotta get out of this. There's no hope for this anymore. You know, like the heyday of this business just ended right when I got into it. You know, so then I packed up shop and moved back to Colorado and started playing for the Colorado Ice, which is an arena football team. A bunch of my teammates were playing with them as well, and so you might not know the Colorado Ice, but basically we were Arena 1 right at the time because Arena 1 was on strike or they were down or whatever for like a few years. It was like they canceled.
So would you play like the Green Bay Mustangs?
No, we didn't play Green Bay Mustangs. We played like the Montana something or other. We played North Dakota, South Dakota. I played in Alaska. I played a game in Alaska. I scored 2 touchdowns in Alaska. Would have never been to Alaska without arena football. But basically, all the coaches and all the players from Arena 1 were playing in what was Arena 2. And so Arena 2 was Arena 1 for like 2 years. So it was a crazy kind of thing. So like, if I would have come back to Colorado and played, it would have been for the Colorado Crush.
Okay.
But the league didn't exist anymore for 2 years, and so everyone was just trying to figure out what their next plans, and so everyone just jumped down to the next league, and that was the Arena 1 for a year, and I did that for a year. It was great. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. The whole time doing that, I was actually working on a business idea. So at the time, there was a small, tiny little business called Groupon. And the concept of Groupon was, at the time, you had to pay for these deals, and then you had to print out this coupon and then take it to that place and hope you got some special item that they selected for that Groupon deal, right?
So wait, say that again.
So you had to go online.
When it first came out,
let's say you had a couch for $100,
right?
You pay $50 for the deal online. You print the little thing out and you go redeem it at the place with this printout piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea for the business was to basically create volumes and hopefully get return business, right?
Sure.
So what was happening was, like a year or two into it, a lot of businesses were going under, like small businesses, because of their Groupon deals. They were too successful and they were giving away stuff at too discounted of a price, and then they weren't getting that repeat business.
Gotcha.
And so it ended up being a big mistake for a lot of small businesses that couldn't handle that kind of, just complete inventory wipeout and make no money and lose money on everything,
right?
And then nobody come back. So I thought my solution was, my buddy had just started a text server company that basically operates on short codes. So you text any word to a short code number, a 5-digit number, and it shoots anything you want. You can program it to shoot anything you want back to the phone. So I created a business called dealsonyoursell.com, and basically, so this is before apps were real big or anything like that. And basically, you would text the deal. So if it was, Old Town, right? You text Old Town 1 to the text server. It's the same number, so you just save the number in your phone the way you would any other number or contact, but you could do that for any business. So it could be, Old Town 1. It could be, I don't know, Lardo 2, right?
Okay.
Gotcha. Or Lardo 1, whatever.
Yep.
But it'd all be texted the same number, just the way you text a friend. And basically, we would shoot the discount back to your phone. So the deal would come back in a text to your phone, and be a daily deal. You could go on the website and see what deals they always had on there.
And you started this?
Started it. Yep. I learned how to write code, and I built the website, and I taught myself all this. My mom was my lawyer. She was an attorney for 35 years at the biggest firm in Tennessee, and so that helped me really get off the ground, because all the lawyer fees and all the stuff to really get a business off the ground. She was able to help me do that, and really write my non-disclosure agreements when I was talking about it and pitching it to people.
Maybe she can help us with the podcast.
Hey man, she's a beast. She's a beast. Awesome. She's an absolute beast. But yeah, so I, got that thing off the ground. I started it in Boulder. I was cultivating it in Denver. I was selling luxury condos in Denver while doing this. But I was working the night shift at first, because I was working on this thing at night, at the desk. And then I got promoted in there, so I had to kind of slow down and do things at night. I sold Champ Bailey a condo.
What?
I sold God, I can't remember his name to save my life. He was the quarterback he played for Notre Dame. Super tall dude. He's a commentator on Fox Sports Net.
Rick Meyer.
No, like Goldilocks dude. He was like, no. Beautiful, like just beautiful dude, right? Like he was like prototypical cookie cutter quarterback, but he played for Denver for a couple years and sold him one too. It was luxury apartments in Cherry Creek, Denver, and so kind of wrapped that up. Finally, it was in a good place to launch the business. Took it back to Boulder, got a little spot. Flew one of my best friends out to help me run the business and kind of be my number two. Got some office space right downtown on Pearl Street, and got that thing rolling. Man, we were just in the streets, and we ran that for about a year and a half, 2 years, and we really at one point had a really kind of cool cult following, you know. And of course, we did the back end stuff every day, so you could see the people who like repeat business and people who would use it all the time, and like people who would come on and be like, man, like, you know, this guy, he's using the thing 5-6 times a day. Like, if we could get, you know, 100 people doing that, we were off to the races, you know. So that was great, you know. So the way I did it was I structured it on the back end where businesses would buy text packages. So they would, you know, they'd sign up for however much they wanted, right? And it was like, so they get 500 text messages a month, or they could get 100 text messages a month.
Okay.
Right? And when that went out, they could re-up, or they could keep it the same, however they wanted to do it. But basically, they controlled their, you know, the amount of
The volume,
but also the amount of
The risk.
the risk,
yeah.
the amount of risk they could be in, so they could control that and say, okay, we can afford this. Let's do this month. Let's try it, whatever, you know. So
that's
worked out.
Great concept.
It worked great. I honestly think you know, even with apps and everything else, something like it could still work today. You know, like,
So what happened with that?
ran out of money. So
Okay.
ran out of money, and you know, we were looking for investors and things like that, and it just didn't happen in time, and so we had to shelf it about 2 years in, which was a very tough decision, but I feel like it was one of those things that it was a good lesson. You know, like it was. You know, I was 25, 26, you know, running my business in Boulder, Colorado, you know, and, you know, really something that was my own, and it was actually working, you know, and so it was tough getting people to buy in on something that involved text messages, and that was actually part of the pitch, that like texting would be the number one form of communication in the next 5 to 10 years, you know. And so it was maybe a little bit ahead of its time.
Just a little bit early.
Oh, man, I think now,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It could have been great. Honestly, I was like, I'm gonna retire at 30. Like, this is gonna be we're gonna make a big splash, you know, sell this thing huge, and then move on to the next thing. But that was a great experience, but taught me a lot of lessons. But when that went under, when that took a pause, we were just like, okay, I need to do something different. I need to clear my head. I need to like get in a different space. And so I was like, okay, it was summertime. I was like, I'm just go work at this bar. You know, I'm just going to apply for this bar.
Are we getting to the beer part?
Let's get into the beer.
Okay, hold on. Before we do then,
Yeah.
I'm thirsty.
Okay, let's do it.
So, what did you bring?
I brought my favorite beer of all time, Pillowfist. This is our Hazy IPA. This is our very first Hazy IPA that we put out. It's our flagship. It's our year-round, all day, every day. To me, this beer is a world beater. In all ways, I think it's the best Hazy IPA. I think it's the best IPA. I think it's the best beer you can have. I think when people try it, you know, I lead pitches at like, you know, with these, you know these corporate accounts and retailers and buyers. I usually lead with Pillowfist just because it's like one of those beers when you try it, you go, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, everybody can get behind Pillowfist. You know?
Do you think that the Hazy is getting dated? Like, are people getting sick of Hazy, or do you think it's going to stay for a while? Because it's got its own its own category now. It's its own category.
It has its own category.
So what do you think about that? Do you think it's going to stay? Or?
The Hazy's are here to stay.
Okay.
We did not think that at first. We really didn't think that at first. But the data's in, the news is in, you know, the consumer reports are in, like, people are buying Hazies, they're drinking Hazies. It's just another style that is available to people now. You know, it was like this is going to be the end-all be-all, but, you know, like, you know, the clean IPAs are making a comeback, you know, pale ales are making a comeback, lagers are making a comeback, but Hazies are still here to stay. I mean, we sell Hazies probably 3 to 1 of everything else we sell.
Wow.
And I think for some breweries it's probably even more.
Why do you think that is? What is it about the Hazy IPA category that
there's a few things
that people love so much?
So for me, I think it's something different, right? So that's just the initial appeal to it. I think it has generally they have a beautiful, inviting color. You know, it almost looks like fruit juice, you know, like orange juice or something. You know, that's just a very inviting color for any beer. And then I think it's the hops being used, right? We're using more, you know, juicy, you know, tropical, you know, newer hops that are from the Northwest. It's not, you know, your old school hops that,
Right.
you know, are just, you know, big bittering hops. Another big thing is social media, right? It's popular and it's trending, and I think anything that trends, anything that pop culture accepts has legs, right? And it's no telling where those legs go, right? And so, you know, I think Instagram is a big part of it. You know, I would say Twitter, or Facebook, but not really. I think it's more Instagram as far as like beer, just taking photos of beer. You know, like it's a thing now where people are just starting pages and they just want to take pictures of beer,
I do it all the
beautiful beer.
Yeah, and
it's
Untapped.
Untapped, right? Cheers, guys!
Cheers. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Yeah,
guys.
so the star of this show is Citra and Mosaic, and juice yeast strain from Imperial Yeast, English yeast.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you brought this. Actually, I was watching your weekly
Weekly beer updates.
Weekly beer updates,
Yeah.
and when you mentioned this, I was like, man, I hope that's one of the beers he brings.
Yeah, Citra Mosaic.
Boy,
that's
Can't go wrong
delicious.
with those, right? You know, those are my two favorite hops. You know, big nose, big aroma,
Oh,
great
man.
flavor,
And like
the mouthfeel.
The bitterness doesn't last long, so
No.
it's quick.
No, and
I love that.
the thing of this is, you know, when the hazy started coming out as well, I think a big part of why they were so popular as well is because I think it was a reaction at first to your higher IBU IPAs, you know, where everybody was competing for, you know, 100 IBUs, high 90s, you know,
Right.
how much of a bitter beer bomb could you make? And I think the hazy was a reaction to that, right? Where you still get the big hop aromas and flavors, but you had the original ones landing at 40 and 30 IBUs. You know, it was just no bitterness; it was just juice. So I think the beauty of Pillowfist and why I think so many people like it, even people who don't necessarily like hazies all the time, is because it does still have some bitterness there. It's 65 IBU, which is pretty high for a hazy, right? But it doesn't. You don't taste the 65.
No,
let's
you
say.
don't.
But I think there's enough of it there to make, you know, your more traditional IPA drinkers happy, right? And so I think I think is why it wins. It's an IPA for everybody. You know.
Well, it's an incredible beer. I mean,
it's so good.
It really fills your mouth. The mouthfeel is.
Mouthfeel, yep.
It's big without being overwhelming.
Absolutely.
But it's fresh.
Yep.
And it is bitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I've still
Yeah.
got the bitterness,
Yeah.
which I like the bitterness.
That's it.
But it's really balanced with the fruitiness and the juiciness. That it's kind of got everything that you just said. It does. It delivers exactly on that description. And
Well, that's delicious.
Or even
I
when I'm
think-
doing like a tasting or something, you know, and somebody's like, "Oh, I don't like hazies," they're like, "Well, just try this one," right? You know, like this one might surprise you. Or someone who's like, I don't like, IPAs. You know, I'm like, "Well, just try this one." Like, it might surprise you. And almost always they're like, "Oh." They're like, "I really like that." You know, like
I'm
this is
glad
like,
they brought a
it's
whole
like,
box of it.
yeah.
This is going to be a fun podcast.
Yeah. There's a lot. We might as well crack the other.
Yeah, I
one.
know. So while you're doing that, okay, your business, your text message business, what is it called again? It was
DealsOnYourCell.com.
Deals on your cell.
I just want to say, that is not how I wanted that story to end.
He got paid out. The investors came in and bought him out.
I know.
You know.
But I'm honest. I mean, I swear to God, I am so glad that it didn't turn out that way, because I love hearing about the life lesson, right? Because any of us in business, we have to have those life lessons. We
That's
have to be humble, and we have to learn in order to get us to the next level.
That's
so.
it.
I'm
time-
sorry that it didn't work out.
Yeah, no,
but-
it's okay. I mean, at the time, I thought it was the end of the world, but I look
Sure.
back on it and I'm like, I learned so much from that experience, and just to put myself out there, at such a young age, nothing can scare me anymore, right? It's like I've tried it, I've done most of it, I've seen most of it. Like, on to the next thing. What are we going to do next?
I love that.
And
that's a great mentality.
It at the time it sucked, but. You realize those lessons that you learned, they literally carry you on to the next thing you do.
Absolutely.
And the next thing I did was started at a bar called the Sundown Saloon on Pearl Street in Boulder, Colorado, and
it has to be the Sundowns.
Yeah,
right?
Because your son, Spurs.
But his son had just came down. You like the? I like the congruity of that.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So this was supposed to be just a summer, just make some money, do something different, learn something new, and just change my headspace, and as I figured out the next move with Deals on Yourself, right? And it ended up being the best decision of my life. Lifelong friends, lifelong lessons. I ended up working there for about 4 years. It was the number one bar in Colorado. It was the number one PBR bar in the country for like 5 or 6 years in a row.
That's the bull riding, right?
No. This was just, it was everybody, right? It was pool hall by day. There'd
really?
be old folks in there chilling, with some college students doing some homework, and then that crowd would change out for the, for the happy hour crowd. And
wow.
then, at night it was full on college bar, 4 or 5 rows deep, just cash everywhere. It was
so insane. Let's clarify. So you thought
PBR.
Professional bull riding,
yeah, that's what I thought.
And you're talking about the Blue Ribbon.
I thought you were talking about Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah,
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
me too.
Oh,
okay.
Pabst Blue Ribbon. Yeah.
Let's just all get on the same page.
Okay, it's funny because you said bull riding because there was a bar in town in Boulder that had an electrical bull, and they were so popular for having an electrical bull, and I was like, no, wrong bar. No, but PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon, we sold the most in the country for like 5-6 years in a row. I mean, we were busy. We were the number one bar in the state of Colorado. I mean, it was nuts, and we made a ton of money, and we had a lot of fun, and it was a different life. And I had a checking account that would get $1.50 deposited into it every month, but I had a safe in my room, full of cash.
Yeah.
Because end of the night, we had buckets and buckets. There'd be 5 of us in there, in a room counting money for an hour and a half, drinking beer and taking shots. It was an experience of a lifetime. It was unbelievable. But we were also one of the top craft beer bars, and so because of that and the volume and the popularity, we got in with all the breweries, right? So your Avery's, your Upslopes, your Boulder Beer, you go down the list. New Belgium, everyone, Breckenridge, everyone wanted a piece of us. Left Hand, I mean you name it. And so in that way, we would have these private, beer tastings with the reps of these different breweries, and then we always could go to any of these breweries and show up anytime and do the tours, bring people with us. We always just had access, all of us, and it was one of those things where you end up immersed in this beer world. It started as just a bar world, then you end up immersed in this beer world where you realize this is pretty cool, this is exciting stuff, how do I get into this, how do I keep going in this, what is the career path? I don't want to bartend forever. I'm having a blast now, but I can't be up till 4 in the morning,
right,
drinking and counting money with my boys all night forever. This has been good, but a part of the reason why I say it's the best decision of my life is I met my wife there. So she was getting her master's in integrated physiology. Her name's Ilana. She was there at the end of one of my shifts, and she was getting some water at the water cooler, and I was messing with one of the door guys, and I was like, psst, just kind of like hauling down the hall at her, and she was like, yes, and I was like, my name's Joe, yada yada, can I buy you a drink, so my shift's over, we go sit down and have a drink, and we're about an hour in, and which was just nuts, just sitting there having drinks, and her friends are heading out the door, and they're walking by the door, and they're like, okay, Ilana, I didn't know she was there with friends. Her friends were over in another part of the bar, and she's leaving with them, and they're leaving, and they're tapping her like, okay, we're going, and she's like, okay, you guys go ahead, and I was like, I'm in. She just ditched 5 of her friends, she told her to get on out of here, So, we ended up hopping around to a few other bars. We ended up talking the whole night, and we've literally been together ever since that night. Fast forward, married and all that, house, dogs, the whole deal. moved to Portland, but she was getting her master's in integrated physiology at CU, so she was still in school. So she graduated and she started going to job fairs, and she was like, well, I'll probably do something in Denver or whatever, so the next level was either go to med school or nursing school or cut bait and get into anything else, right? So she was burnt out on school, and so she was like, I'm gonna see what these job fairs are talking about. And so she got this job offer or an interview with Fisher Investments
gotcha.
out here
Okay.
in Camas. And so she's like, man, these guys are talking about flying me out and for the interview and yada yada yada. She was like, how would you feel about moving to Portland? And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, if she was trying to be like, let's go to Nebraska or something like that, I'd have been like, nah, not happening. But in my head, I'm like, I've been here for a long time. My original plan didn't work out. She grew up there, and it was just kind of like, what, let's do something. So let's take a leap. I think about these things we did when we were younger. Like, we just made a lot of just go get them decisions, and we didn't know what the hell was going to happen, and that's pretty much what happened when we moved out here. She didn't know anything about Fisher. She had a couple interviews that gave her the job. Next thing, like 4 months later, they're flying around here to start work.
Yep.
And I'm like telling all my friends, I'm about to bounce. It's time for the goodbye parties. What are we going to do? And so I ended up, I had to finish up all my affairs, but about 2 months after that, I flew out, and we've been here ever since. And
wow.
That was 6 years ago.
So how did you end up at Old Town?
So that was a part of it. Mm-hmm. I flew out to Portland every other weekend, to see her. And every 2 weeks, I'd make my calls around or whatever. I had my resume and all my stuff out. And I would just go hit up breweries. And I would just do the whole circuit. And it's funny because, like, a lot of the breweries that I went to, some of them, sometimes there's someone there who's like, man, I remember when you came in here, 6 years ago, and because they know who I am now, but, they're like, I remember when you came in here. I was like, yeah, that was me. I dropped the resume off, didn't get a call back, motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so remember when you didn't hire me?
Yeah. Remember when you didn't call that number that you said,
Well, haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate, and so leap of faith, we end up here, and I'm just throwing the resumes around every time I come back, and I'm like, once I have a few legitimate offers, then that's when I can really cut bait and go, because like I said, the money was good in Colorado. I was like, I can't just cut this off at the knees with nothing
correct
to do out here. So when I came out, I had offers from Old Town and, well, I won't say the other ones, but basically, one of the other ones offered me a GM position at their new brewery, and it was a really cool concept. And I was like, man, this could be pretty awesome,
mm-hmm.
right? And I dropped the resume off at Old Town, and Adam was like, I want to hire you. This is what it is. This is what we're offering. I have big plans for you, and this, that, and the other.
And who is Adam?
Adam's the owner of Old Town. He's the one who bought. He's the one who bought the Old Town downtown from the Accardi family, 17 years ago now. And he used to work at Adidas. He was an exec at Adidas, and he kind of, same thing, leap of faith, cut bait, want to change course. He's like in the restaurant business. And at the time, the ideas were for eventually to start a brewery, right? And so they opened up the second location where the brewery is now. It wasn't a brewery right away. It, went through a fire. And then after the fire,
I remember
it was
that.
like, well, perfect time. No time at the present. Bring it back as a brewery. And then that was the beginning of Old Town Brewing.
And there's a great story on the website about how he had the pizza at like 9 years old.
Oh yeah.
So,
exactly.
So go check out. It's otbrewing.com.
Yeah.
Right.
otbrewing.com.
And that story about how Adam was a customer at 9 years old and then come around to buy the place is really cool.
It's an incredible story. I mean, because he grew up in Eugene, and the original Old Town is now called Ambrosia. It's still down there. It's an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
And if you go to Ambrosia in Eugene, you walk in on the tile floors, it still says Old Town Pizza.
Oh my.
It still says Old Town Pizza in the tiles. That used to be the original Accardi family Old Town Pizza business right there. And I guess Adam would be able to tell you more about that, but I'm pretty sure they franchised it a bit, and they had a few locations all over. the West Coast, and then it whittled back down to a few. But yeah, so yeah, he opened the second location. Fire, ended up bringing it back as a brewery. But Adam is a big dreamer. Adam is he's my partner. He's my friend. He's my we're a team. Like, we're a tag team. Like, he's and I felt it at the time, but I wasn't sure what I was getting into just even being here. But I had a really nice offer from this other brewery, and I came back to Adam and said, listen, straight up, this is the offer. I showed him exactly. I was like, I have this other offer from this other brewery. He's like, well, I was like, I would rather work for you though. Like, period. Like, I would rather work for you. So, like, how do we do this? And so basically he was like, I can't pay you that right here, right now, today. He was like, but I want you here. He was like, so let's just, you got your background bartending, so off the gate you have as many shifts as you want bartending. You can, he was like, you'll be the bar manager, you'll make great tips, and in about 8 to 10 months, we're talking with distributors, and we're going to be signed with distribution, and I want you to be my sales director and run the beer division. And he said, then I will be able to pay you what you're worth. He was like, but we're almost there. He's like, I just need you to trust in me and believe in me and take a leap of faith. And so I was like, well, fuck it, let's do it. And best decision ever. Aside from where everything that's happened with Old Town, and from that point on, the other brewery actually went under like a year and a half in. Like, and I was like, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, like, what a bullet I dodged there. You know what I'm saying?
The one that was at that concept, the
one that had the cool concept.
Yeah, okay.
I will not.
I get it.
I don't want to put anybody on blast. But
I get it.
But yeah, and it's just been a roller coaster ever since. And sure enough, 8 to 10 months later, we signed with Miletus. He had me in the meetings with, Columbia and Miletus and Point Blank and all these, big shots in the industry, and it's me and him and the brewer, and we're sitting there talking beer, and it was like, true to his word, it was like, we hadn't done it yet, but he's like, I want you here for these meetings, I want you here for this stuff, I want you here for all this. These are experiences that you have to have along with me, because I'm gonna be new in this too, and so and then boom, we signed with Miletus, and we've just been tinkering, and
you guys really have
things since then.
You use the word leap of faith a lot, and I love that, because as a business owner, that's all you're taking all the time. What is harder, taking the L on the field when you're playing football, or taking the L in business? Or is it equal? Because I love analogies, and sports is a great analogy.
I'm so big on analogies. I love analogies. They just work.
But when you take that leap of faith on 4th and inches, and you don't make it, and you don't get it, there is that immediate disappointment and anger and all these emotions.
Yes.
But it's the same when you fail in business. Am I right? Or
it's the exact same. And I think these are life lessons that are so important, and you don't realize them at the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get on a soapbox, but I'll just say this: my children will not be receiving participation trophies in anything they play. Correct. I think learning how to lose is just as important as learning how to win. And those are lessons that once you're in the real world and no one's just handing you participation trophies anymore, or the job or the promotion or the whatever, or the the bonus that you want, you got to know how to handle it. You got to know how to move on. You got to know how to deal. And I think we're ill-equipping, at least, and I guess it's happening in the classroom too, right? Teachers are, it used to be when I was growing up, a parent had the teacher's back, and so they would gang up on me. It's like, my son is messing up, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and then they would team up on me. And now it's like the kid and the parent team up on the teacher. And so the teachers end up giving grades and things that these kids didn't earn because they just complained long enough, and I think it's not equipping this new generation coming up for the real world where nobody's going to hand you anything.
I had never thought of it that way, but it's almost funny because when I go to my kid's school, I take that approach. It's me and the teacher against the boy.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And you can actually see the teacher kind of go back on the heels for a minute and go, wait, you're supporting me?
Yeah, my side?
Yeah. And I never really understood why until you verbalized it like that. That's a really awesome point that I never thought of in that way.
It's a whole thing, and I just think, when it comes to doing business, and, now you're in this world and you're in this arena and you're in the real world, like I said, where no one is going to hand you anything, and, it has to be earned, it has to be taken. It's
I love it.
And people are going to be looking for handouts as far as like, well, I'm here, so shouldn't I get this?
Yeah,
it's like
what did you do today?
No, you got to grind. You got to get it.
I showed up. Shouldn't I get a promotion?
I think about, like, you take back to the sports analogy, I think about, like, Michael Jordan, right? Like, Michael Jordan got cut from his junior year high school team, right? So if he makes that team and sits on the bench all year, is he just happy and complacent? Man. And then he doesn't become Michael Jordan? Yeah. Right? Like, him getting cut made him work and slave all summer long, all the next year long, to be the best player he could be, and then he's a star. Then he's got full scholarship to North Carolina, and now he's Michael Jordan. Right?
Then
he gave him the motivation.
But then he needed the bad boys. He needed the Pistons to beat him down.
Yeah.
And it made him a better player, and it made him a stronger player.
Yes.
And it made his skin thicker.
Yes.
And you have to have thick skin.
Thick skin,
especially when you're doing business and you're starting.
It's motivation. Adversity builds character, right?
Yeah.
And it's like way more so than winning and triumph and all that, right? It's like if you learn how to handle the down days, then when it's good, it's all good.
Amen.
Right? Talk about analogies. May the worst of your todays be the best of your tomorrows, right? Or may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows, right? So like everything that's the best right now, you should be looking for that being a bad day later. What's that Chris Rock line where he's like, if Bill Gates woke up and looked at his phone and had Oprah money, he'd jump off a fucking bridge. And it's like, and it's all relative, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's like everybody wants Oprah money, but there's also something else out there, right? There's also something better to strive towards, and that takes, you gotta, I don't know. It's just a mentality. It's a mentality, and you take that into business, and things should come your way, right? Because everyone doesn't operate that way. If you operate in a way that is only putting the good energy out there, only putting the hard work out there, only just striving to be best, keep plodding along, boom, 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 like things are gonna happen, Might not happen exactly what you want, but
you're gonna lose. Yeah.
Well, I love hearing the story of you going to Colorado and the story of you going to Old Town back to back, because the similarities in your decision-making process at both of those points in your life, and trusting yourself and trusting where you need to be, trusting that, I would rather be around a certain type of person, the people who are going to support me and who want me. And that's such an important lesson from your stories is don't always just go chase the golden ring. Don't always just do what's easy. Don't always just do what feels like a sure thing or what's comfortable, but instead go with the people who care about you. Surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And good things will happen.
And see, the way you just said that, I didn't think about those decisions in that way until you just said that. But you're right. It was the people involved. Things felt right. It was a leap of faith, right? It was like this might be shiny, but this is right. Like for me, and these people are right for me, you know, and so I don't know.
And a lot like you, having your partner, having a wife that is willing to do that. Like we moved the same way, kind of like you did. We just said one day we didn't have a job.
Yeah.
She didn't have a job, and we just said, we're out of here. We were in Missouri at the time, but we were like, we got to get out of here. But the fact that she was willing to do that with my ass, it speaks volumes.
You can do anything together.
Exactly.
You've taken on the ultimate challenge. You've just totally flipped it up. Scared, young, don't know what the hell's going to happen next. But we're like, well, we got to try it. We got to do something. Let's just do it and see what happens. Like. She's wildly capable and smart and intelligent. She's in nursing school right now at OHSU, and she left the finance world about a year ago, and that was her original goal. But when she got in, so she just she cut bait. She turned and went for her passion, right? You know, she's making great money at Fisher Investments, you know, and it's like left it all behind to do her passion, right?
Yeah.
But she's gonna be the best midwife and nurse ever, right? She's gonna absolutely crush it. She's so ambitious and talented and smart, but it takes a lot of courage to just say, to leave this comfortable thing to go chase your dreams, right? And you know, she just finished her first term. She's already a nurse. You know, it's an accelerated program, so it's like,
so she's just,
she gets her undergrad, her master's, and then her PhD in like 4 years.
Wow. Holy
4.5 years, something like that. But she's in her element. She loves it. She loves studying. She loves working. She's in the hospital delivering babies and, you know, watching the nastiest stuff and C-sections and, you know, but she loves it. You know, she's like, babe, you won't believe what happened last night. You know, and she's telling me this stuff. Like, it's like first thing in the morning, you know, she just came up from like a 7 a.m. show. I'm like, I don't want to hear about that. That's fucking disgusting, you know, like, but she loves it, you know. But she's happy as a clam, you know, and it's like, and that makes my life easier, you know, like, you know, happy wife, happy life, you know, but all of it was a leap, you know. We didn't know it was going to work out this well.
Yeah.
You know?
Next time on Business Over Beer.
It's any industry, right? Any industry just takes time. You know, you need people to kind of kick doors down and just get in the industry and just do it, right? And just see more faces and more prevalent. And the next thing you know, some other black kid says, "Oh, I saw that Joe guy. Like, I want to work for a brewery." You know, like, you know. I don't know. I think this is a special place. You know, like when I first moved here, I was waving that Colorado flag so hard, you know, just Colorado beer, it's best beer in the world, yada yada yada, and it didn't take long for me to just kind of set that flag down and just say, Colorado beer, you are great, but this is something else. This is next level over here. You know? When we first started doing this, we were thought of as, I would say, oh, Old Town Brewing, and they'd be like, oh yeah, the pizza place, you know, and so I think it made us tougher because we had to work that much harder to differentiate the two things, right? It's like, yes, we make great pizza, but now we make great beer. We make award-winning beer, medals at JBF, medals at World Beer Cup. Like, this isn't a joke. Like, we make good beer. We don't just make it because we have a pizza place, right? You know, like, we want to be known as a great brewery and separate those two in your minds for now, right? And at some point we can bring it all back together as one happy thing.
Business Over Beer reminds you to always drink responsibly. Our theme song is Idiocracy by Christian Leo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Business Over Beer.